Today we're going to do something amazing, very fun and hugely confidence boosting, and you're going to see that there's a different way to learn, not just languages but learning generally. And when I say we're going to do something amazing, it's because I promised you that we're going to go from like 0 to conversational Spanish in 90 minutes. A ridiculous promise, I know. But we're gonna do it today. It's not just 90 minutes though, it's 90 minutes of intense concentration. I want you really here with me, that's why I left some like sweets around. You just need some sugar, I'm probably gonna need it. And so I need your focus and your attention with me. I need you as engaged as you can be. And whilst that might sound like painful, if you think of like other kind of classroom learning situations, if you do that, these 90 minutes are gonna go like in 2 minutes. So, let's begin. We're going to use our English to learn Spanish, but that doesn't mean that we're focused on translating. That's a really important idea. What we're going to be translating isn't English, but it's rather our ideas or our thoughts. This is something that we already do when we speak our native language. We can think in language, we can dialogue with ourselves, but when we produce language, we're actually already translating thought into English, and we're going to learn how to do that in Spanish by thinking about how we do it in English. Less complicated than what it sounds. So, the first thought or idea or feeling we will learn to express in Spanish is that of wanting, but not only wanting, but specifically I want, which is quiero in Spanish, one word. I want, quiero. Quiero. Beautiful. So this might feel like a totally foreign word, an alien word. No, it doesn't sound anything like want, but in fact it's not entirely foreign. We also have this word in English, it's just pronounced a bit differently. We have the word require or requirement. No, that's re-wanting or inquire when you want information. So that's the same root as quiero, which is I want. So how do we say I want in Spanish? Quiero. Quiero. Good. So I made a point that we're not translating words but ideas or thoughts. So we have 2 words there in English, I want, but 1 word there in Spanish, but it's the same idea. No? If you want to say I don't want, we don't have to look to translate the word don't. No, that's a word. We just need to know how to make it negative, which in Spanish, we just put no in front of it. So if you want to say I don't want, instead of quiero, you're going to say no quiero. No quiero. Great. You could, if we put the RE of require in front of quiero, we can get I require. So RE is pronounced re in Spanish, so how might you say I require? Quiero is I want, I require? Requiero. Requiero. I don't require? No requiero. Good. So it's good to take time to think this through, even if people answer before you think it through, still take a moment to think it through. It's the thinking these ideas through that is going to install Spanish in your brains. So don't be trying to memorize any of what we're seeing. It's actually just the thought processes. No, that's going to study. You're trying to remember stuff. I can tell by your eyes. That's it. Brilliant. All right. So, quiero, wanting, very useful idea that we express a lot in language, related to like requirement. Another very common idea that we express a lot in language is that of can or able to, which I can or I'm able to in Spanish is puedo. 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 Again, doesn't look anything like can, but it's related to potency. You know, like I potent, puedo. So it's the o on the end of quiero and puedo that's showing that it's I. It's the o doing that. How would you say I can't? If puedo is I can, I can't might be? No puedo. Good. Brilliant. So the information of I is in the o. Pued is like the potency bit, and then we add the o, puedo, and we get I can. Quiero is like the bit of requirement, no, and then it's o showing that it's I. Quiero, I want. If we want to say he wants, she wants, he can, she can, we just have to change the o to an e, an e. So let's try that. We have quiero, I want. We change the o to an e. How would it sound? Quiere. That's he wants and she wants. Let's do the same with puedo. What does puedo mean? I can, not just can. So puedo is I can, and he can, she can. Puede. She can't. No puede. So we have words for like he and she in Spanish. We just don't need to use them. So puede, he can, she can. No puede, he can't, she can't. This form also works for it. So no puede could mean it can't. No. How would you say it wants? We have I want quiero, and then it wants quiere. Good. The word for what in Spanish is que. Que. So now you can say, what does he want? What does she want? Que quiere? What does she require? Que requiere. So it's the air showing that it's she or he, it's the context showing us that it's she. No? The air is for he, she, it. The context shows it's she or he or whatever. Let me tell you the words for he and she. The words for he and she are el for he, and ella for she. No? So you'll hear them around, you don't need to try and remember them, you'll hear them around, and like I said, you don't need to use those unless you're clarifying or emphasizing. So maybe you want to say like, what the hell does he want? The hell bit, you don't need to translate it, you can actually just give that impression by saying el, where you don't need to say el. No? Does that make sense? Give it a try. What does he want? Like, what the hell does he want? El que quiere. And it will come at the beginning or the end because it's kind of extra information in Spanish. So like, el que quiere. ¿Qué quiere él? ¿Qué quiere él? No? So it's not necessary information. No? You can use it for different feelings. No? Maybe to emphasize, maybe to clarify. So we have que, which is what, and who is quién. Quién. So now we can say who wants. Quien quiere, we use quiere with who because who is like he or she, isn't it? Like in English, we say he wants, who wants. I have an S that goes with he, she. Good. Quien quiere. If you want to say I want, there you probably want the word for I. No, because it's kind of emphatic. So you wouldn't just say quiero. You would say yo quiero. The word for I in Spanish is yo. So, quien quiere? Yo quiero. Good. Which is, by the way, related to ego. If you have a big sense of I, you have a big ego, right? The yo is that second part of ego. In Cypriot Greek, by the way, we say yo for I. You can kind of see how it morphed slowly. So, yo quiero. What was again, I am able, I can, kind of like I potent. If we just remember the first sound, it will help us remember the rest of the word. So potent gives us the first sound. What's I can? Puedo. I can't?
No.
He can? Who can? ¿Quién puede? I can. Yo puedo. Very good. All right. So to eat in Spanish is comer. Comer, to eat. So you have two words becoming one word in Spanish, but it's the same idea. The idea is to eat. Comer, not I eat or he eats, just to eat. Comer. I want to eat. Quiero comer. Good. I want to eat. Quiero comer. I don't want to eat. So now, the most important thing about learning a language isn't remembering words. It's about getting really good at splitting an idea up. So when you say, I don't want to eat, how do you split that idea up? The first bit is I don't want. And you let all your mental energy go on translating the idea of I don't want, which is? No quiero. And then the second bit is just to eat, easy. No quiero comer. No, we break it up mentally to think our way through it. How would you say, I can eat, I am able to eat? Puedo comer. Good. You can say this in Spanish, by the way, like you do in English. If somebody says, like, do you want to eat? Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Puedo comer. I can eat. She can't eat. Well done. She can't. No puede comer. Or if you were to say the word for she for whatever reason, ella no puede comer. No. No puede comer ella, if you want to be super emphatic. Otherwise, no puede comer. What was the word for what? Que. What does he want to eat? What does she want to eat? Que quiere comer. Good. Who wants to eat? ¿Quién quiere comer? I want. Yo quiero. No, that's a bit more emphatic, so we would say I want. Yo quiero. Good. The word for when in Spanish is cuando. So question words in Spanish tend to start k, just like they tend to start WH in English. No, we've seen que, what, quién, who, cuando, when. So what's when? Cuando. Alright, I can see some eyes like you're trying to hold on to some words. Let the words go. The structures are the important things and how we find the words is the important thing. So you'll have much more brain space to find what we've looked at if you're not trying to remember anything. No? And that's what learning language is, because otherwise you're just going to have to remember the whole language at the same time all the time forever. Right. So, what did I just say a sentence or something? What was it? When can he eat? Let's try that. Cuando he can he puede comer. Good, very good. I eat. So comer is to eat, and I eat is como. So we get rid of the er from comer to eat, and we put an o. That o we've seen it already for I. Como. But something else happens. Does anyone notice? Comer, como. Anyone notice any change there, apart from what I've mentioned? The intonation, comer, we have the accent on the end. When it's to something, comer, and then when it's I, como, like in quiero, puedo. That's important. Part of the information that we're in the present tense is contained in that stress pattern. Como, how would you say he eats, she eats? Come. So you said comer, right? So you kept the accent on the end, comer, and it sounded like comer, to eat. So that's why, thank you for that, Eric, it was a very good one. Because that's why, it shows why the stress is important to have it at the beginning. Come. And then it sounds like he, she eats. Because if you say comer, it's going to sound like comer. No? To eat. So come. What is he eating? What is she eating? Que come. Good. Alright. So, the word opinion in Spanish is opinión. Same word. My opinion is mi opinión. So how would you say, he doesn't want my opinion? He doesn't want my opinion. How would you say that? The first bit is he doesn't want. No quiere mi opinión. No quiere mi opinión. Who wants my opinion? Sounds like me. Who wants my opinion? ¿Quién quiere mi opinión? Good. You might have heard somewhere, mi casa, tu casa. Or maybe in English, because Americans tend to say it like, mi casa, tu casa, no? Literally, my house, your house, mi casa, tu casa. Or in other words, make yourself at home. So if mi casa, tu casa is literally my house, your house, how would you say your opinion?
Tu opinion.
Bravo, well done. Tu opinión. Good. I don't want your opinion. Good sentence to practice your Spanish attitude. You're allowed to have loads of attitude in Spanish, by the way. Trust me. I don't want your opinion. No quiero tu opinión. If you want to be extra sassy, gracias. Good. What was the word for house? If we have mi casa, tu casa, good, casa. Which says a bit with case, by the way. Case and casa is the same word, really. Cassette is like a little casa. No? So, at home in Spanish, you say in home, but it has the meaning of at home. So that's en casa, at home. En casa. So you can say, I want to eat at home. How would you say it? So the first bit is I want, how is that? Quiero. To eat? At home. Bravo. Quiero comer en casa. No, I don't want to eat at home. I don't want to eat en casa. Good. No quiero comer en casa. Who wants to eat at home? So who? What's the word for who? It's going to start ¿Quién? Who wants? Quiere. Who is like he, she. To eat at home. Good. So some of the sentences thought we really need to think about the ideas that we're representing and how to translate them into Spanish. And some of the sentences memory, right? Like comer en casa. Just the words. So we want to always think slowly to learn quickly, and don't worry if you need a couple of seconds to think about a bit. It probably means the next bit you don't really need to think about that much. No? So take your time, never push yourself to go too fast, and that way we really get these structures to build language solidified in our mind, which is what it is essentially, no? So, who wants to eat at home? ¿Quién quiere comer en casa? What was the word for what? ¿Qué? The word for why in Spanish is for what, literally? ¿Por qué? So, por is for. For what? ¿Por qué? That means why. So, why doesn't she want to eat at home? Why doesn't she want to eat at home? Bravo. ¿Por qué no quiere comer en casa? Good. The word for now in Spanish is ahora. Ahora. Literally meaning something like 2 hour. You know what, over the years I'm like, how do I make this cheap joke about Spanish punctuality? But I'm going to let it go. To the hour, now. Ahora. The H is silent, so it's A-H-O-R-A. If por qué is literally for, oh sorry, I missed a bit. Why doesn't she want to eat at home now? Let's do that. So why doesn't she want to eat at home? Good. ¿Por qué no quiere comer en casa ahora? So if por qué, why is literally for what, how would you say for now? Por ahora. I don't want to eat for now. Good. So we're expressing quite a nuanced difference there, no? It's not just I don't want to eat now, I don't want to eat for now. Por ahora. No quiero comer por ahora. Good. I don't want your opinion for now. That adds a bit of nuance to it, doesn't it? I don't want your opinion for now.
No quiero tu opinión por ahora.
Bravo. No quiero tu opinión por ahora. Por favor, maybe. Alright, good. So the word opinion actually forms part of a pattern. Words ending I-O-N in English are nearly always the same in Spanish, only as we've seen, we'll just have to pronounce them like the Spanish, which means big open vowels. You have A, E, I, O, U in Spanish, not all these kind of random dying vowels that you have in English, like the last sound you make before you die, is the most common vowel in English, right? None of that in Spanish. All big open vowels. A, E, I, O, U. That's the biggest thing you can do to have a good Spanish accent, because it will also kind of pull your consonants in the right place if you just have big open vowels. So don't be shy. And also we will like remove from words that end I-O-N any random sounds that come up. So a good example is like passion. There we have sh. We have an SH sound in there in English, but we don't write that. So it means it doesn't exist. In English we have in Spanish we have a s sound. So if opinion becomes opinión, passion becomes pasión. No sh, pasión, because it's written with an S. One S in Spanish, you don't get double S's in Spanish. So you could say, I want your passion, which is a fairly normal sentence in Spanish. You might say in the office. I want your passion. Quiero tu pasión. Good. How might we say tension in Spanish? Tension. Tensión. I don't want tension at home. I'm just helping you manage toxic relationships in Spanish, apparently. I don't know what's going on in my subconscious, but here we are. I don't want tension at home. No quiero tensión en casa. Decision also ends I-O-N, so?
Decisión.
Good. So we might have to think how the vowel should sound. E is like elephant, I is like ink. Decisión. Decisión. Good. I want your decision now.
Quiero tu decisión ahora.
Quiero tu, that's your, not like in mi casa, tu casa. Quiero tu decisión ahora. Good. Why doesn't he want my decision now? So, why? Doesn't he want, that's the idea we need to kind of put into one thing. No quiere. ¿Por qué no quiere? Why doesn't he want my opinion? What was it? My decision now. That's not really the important bit, is it? The important bit is the verb, right? That's where we've really got to think about the information. The no quiere bit. ¿Por qué no quiere mi decisión ahora? Aggression. Agresión. I don't want your aggression. No quiero tu agresión. Good. So we can say a lot in Spanish already, no? Just with this little bit that we've learned. And like I said, you can manage a lot of toxic relationships already, so get in there. Right, so with what I'm about to tell you, we'll be able to make literally thousands and thousands of sentences in Spanish. Or in other words, we'll be able to express thousands of wildly different thoughts and ideas in Spanish, things you might never have imagined being able to speak about in Spanish. So we saw the English words ending I-O-N, we can quite easily convert over into Spanish. These are nouns, words that go with the aggression, the decision, the opinion, nouns. If the noun ends A-T-I-O-N, not only can we convert it over into Spanish, but we can also easily and reliably find the verb from it. So the verb is the to word, like to eat, to want, very useful words. So, somebody, anybody, everybody, can you think of a word in English that ends ation?
Station.
Conversation.
That's a better one. Was that you? Conversation. Station, yeah, that was well, yeah, that's an exception. Give me an exception. Conversation, good, I prefer that one. Alright, so we have conversation. No, that's an Asian word. If you want to find the corresponding verb in Spanish, all we do is we get rid of Asian and we put ar. So conversation becomes conversar, to converse. We've got a verb, to converse. And a lot of the time these verbs might sound a bit like formal or highbrow, but that's because Latin tends to sound formal and highbrow in English, but it doesn't in Spanish, which is just kind of like vulgar Latin. So conversar is an everyday useful verb. That's one we can use. So, we could say I want to converse. We would probably say that in English, I want to have a conversation. No? How would we say that?
Quiero conversar.
I don't want to converse.
No quiero conversar.
No quiero conversar. Why do you want to converse? Oh, I didn't tell you that. Alright, stick that in a bit early. This form, this verb form that we saw with the E, it can also count for you, but only when we're talking formally. That's because when we talk formally in Spanish, instead of saying like, how are you, we say like, how is he? How is the good sir? How is she? How is the good lady? No? So that means you can use the he and she form to refer to you. So imagine we're talking formally to somebody and we do that and say, why do you want to converse? How would you do that? Why?
Okay.
Don't you want? Doesn't he want? Doesn't she want saying? No quiere. What we know already, just more of what we know already. ¿Por qué no quiere? Conversar. Good. So let's see this with some other words. And also, for example, a word like renovation, it ends ation, so we know how to say to renovate. We just got to get rid of the ation and the ar, make it sound more Spanish. So, to renovate, how might that be? Or to refurbish? Renovar. So we can say she wants to renovate the house. How would we say that? She wants to renovate la casa, no? So another one, for example, invitation, that ends ation. So if we want to say to invite, how might that be? Invitar, to invite. Good. So now we can say something like he wants to invite me. Me is the same word in Spanish, M-E, but E is always pronounced E. So me in Spanish is me. Bravo. He wants to invite me. Quiere invitarme. Now, invitar from invitation, invitar. There we got the verb. He quiere invitarme. Good. He doesn't want to invite me. No quiere invitarme. Good. By the way, if you imagine a bit of a situation and emotion behind these sentences when you make them, it does make them more memorable. So if you want to imagine being sad and uninvited, it'll help you remember. No quiere invitarme. So apart from all those nouns ending I-O-N, which we convert into English, decisión, opinión, pasión, we also have hundreds of nouns ending A-T-I-O-N, which we can convert into Spanish, but also we can find verbs from them. So, invitar, from invitation, renovar, from renovation, and for the noun, we have a bit of an adjustment. So the A-T-I-O-N becomes A-C-I-O-N in Spanish. So information becomes información or información, depending on where you are. There's two accents. So it can be like an S or like a th. It's barely noticeable when you're speaking, so it doesn't really matter. Información, información. Separation would be? Separation. This is a church, dude. Separación, and then to separate would be? Separar. Motivation would be? Motivación in most of the Spanish-speaking world, and then in most of Spain, motivación. I find that hard to. Motivación, and then to motivate, we don't have to worry about that sound when it comes to the verb. Motivate is motivar. So you know when I say you really be able to speak about so many things that you won't realise until you try to speak, because you can speak about being motivated and elaborating and informing. And, no? Elaboración, to elaborate. Elaborar. I want to elaborate. Quiero elaborar. Do you want to elaborate? Quiere elaborar? Good. I can't get inspired. I can't get motivated. When you have a get there like that, you can just, mostly in Spanish, say, I can't motivate myself. And the word for myself is the same as the word for me. Me. So if you say, I can't get motivated, I can't motivate me. No puedo motivarme. I can't get inspired. We have inspiración, which means to inspire is inspirar. No? Inspiration, inspiración, inspirar. I can't get inspired because I can't inspire myself, I can't inspire me. No puedo inspirarme. No, I can't get inspired. Artist problems. So sometimes like the words are really obvious like that. They're obviously the same word, no. But sometimes you might be looking for a word, I don't know, like finish, and you say, oh, I don't know how to say it in Spanish. But if you look for an Asian word which means the same thing, you'll probably find that word. So can we think of an Asian word that means something like finish? Termination. Did someone say anything different? Completion, but that's not an Asian word, it's an Asian word, so it doesn't quite fit into our pattern. No. And there is a word from that in Spanish, completar, but it's not as easy for us to find. The Asian ones are easier for us to find. So we have termination, and you might have thought finalization as well. But termination is a really good one because it gives us our everyday verb for to finish in Spanish, which is what? Terminar. Terminación. Terminar. So terminar is to finish. Why doesn't she want to finish? I hope I just don't hear the right thing between what you're all saying. Just imagine it's working. Why doesn't she want to finish? Porque no quiere terminar. Good.
Sorry, is that at the end of the verb? Is it R or am? Terminar.
Yeah, AR. For
AR.
to finish. AR. No?
It's like the sounding is not very good.
Okay. Right. So, terminar. So the two forms of the verb always end in an R. They always end in an R. Terminar. Like we saw also with comer, for example, that ends ER, but it's still an R to E. Okay, so the word for but is pero, but. You could say something like, she wants to manipulate me, but she can't. She wants to manipulate. So we're not going to try and put an ad on manipulate, it's not going to work. We're going to go to manipulation. Manipular. Quiere manipular me, but no puede. I'm too smart. No puede. Alright. So I said that we can use this E form for you if we mean formal you. The word for you when you're being formal is usted. And you might use that a bit more than you would usually when you mean you, because it's polite. It actually comes on vuestra merced, which is like your honor. It's a contraction of that. So, if you was to say, like, why don't you want to finish? It would be more common for you to include the word for you when you're being formal. Usted, why don't you want to finish? So should we try that?
Okay. Usted
Bravo. ¿Usted por qué no quiere terminar? I owe in Spanish, like owing money, is debo. Debo. Now you know where the B comes from in debt. Oh, finally. Finally. Debo, I owe. And that's also used like I must. So you can say, for example, I owe to confirm, and that means I must confirm. So we have confirmation, which means we know how to say confirm in Spanish. So how do you say I must confirm? Debo confirmar. Good. And this, like I said, it sounds like very formal language in English, but it's not. This is literally like everyday Spanish. Huh? Debo confirmar. I say something mad. I must investigate the documentation, but I can't now. I did say you was going to talk about stuff you wouldn't imagine you to talk about, right? So I must, I owe, debo, to investigate. Investigation, investigar. Literally just like that. The documentation. The for these Asian words is la. The feminine words, we have la. So I must investigate the documentation. Let's rewind. I must. Debo investigate the documentation. But I can't. Now. Alright, good. I must conserve my reputation. I must conserve my reputation. I owe. Debt. I owe. Debo. Conserve. Conservation. So, you know, of course, when I give you a word you don't know, what you should be doing is going, does there exist an Asian word? In the same way that when you're talking Spanish, when you have an idea you want to express, does there exist an Asian word that will help you express this idea? So, of course, conservation. Debo conservar my reputation. Mi reputación. They mustn't limit your interaction. So, oh no, we didn't do that yet. He mustn't. So, debo is I must. What is he must? She must. Debe. Limit. Limitation. So, limitar your interaction.
To interaction.
To interaction. Why so much doubt? You're Spanish speakers. Why so much doubt? Huh? He mustn't or she mustn't limit your interaction. No debe limitar tu interacción. Again, like, you know, I can think of a million situations where you'd actually use a sentence like this in Spanish, right? As like robotically Latin as it might sound in English. Alright. So, like I said, you won't realise how conversational you already are until you start trying to translate your ideas into Spanish, practicing Spanish, and only then will you realise how much you can say with patterns like these. You can converse now, but we've still got loads and lots to learn. How would you say it, by the way? You can converse now. You ruined this bit, you're going to be converse at the beginning. Puede conversar ahora. Like I said, the quickest way to conversational fluency is finding the ways and the words you do know to express ideas that you might not automatically think of the word for, right? So, you know, to give you an example, maybe you want to ask for somebody's advice, right? But you don't know the word for advice in Spanish. You just have to kind of hunt for an Asian word that more or less means the same thing. Information, that's good. There is something better, because if you ask for someone's information, it's probably going to sound like date of birth and stuff, right? So if you want someone's advice, alright, that's good actually. That's good. Hands up. You could ask for their opinion. But what I was going for was recommendation. But I think opinion might be better. Alright, so we could ask for recommendation. You can say, I want your recommendation. How would you say that?
Quiero tu recomendación.
Quiero tu recomendación. Initials in Spanish, by the way, are often rolled. Don't worry if you can't do that yet. But often recomendación. But if you can't do that, you just go recomendación. It's fine. There's Spanish speakers and dialects where people don't do it, so chill. You can still you can talk Spanish and actually never learn the rolling R. So quiero tu recomendación. In a similar way, you might say something like, I want your involvement. You go, okay, I don't know the word for involvement, but that idea, what's the idea? Focus on that idea, not the word, and other words will come.
Contribution.
That's a good one. Contribution, cooperation. Depends on the context, doesn't it? Depends on the context. I think that I was going for participation, which is probably a bit more general, but these words work as well, depending on the context. So brilliant, good suggestions. So let's go with participation. So I want your participation. Quiero tu participación, and I want to participate. Quiero participar. And I really want to push that the most important thing is not giving up too soon, not deciding too soon you don't know how to say something. Because when you have a think, you surprise yourself. So it's another random example. You might want to save, and you go, I definitely don't have that. You know? Like, for example, he can't save me. She can't save me. You go, like, for sure I don't like word. But we do. What's the Asian word for save?
Salvation.
Yeah, so to save from salvation. Salvar. He can't save me, she can't save me. No puede salvarme. No. So now that we know about the importance of words ending Asian for speaking Spanish, we'll also notice these words around more in English, and when we do, we can have a quick think about how the word might sound in Spanish. In this way, we can be constantly acquiring and practicing Spanish even when we're not actually speaking Spanish, right? Just noticing these words in English. So maybe you hear or think of the word direction in English, and you can notice consciously, that the word ends I-O-N, so it's probably the same in Spanish. You could ask yourself how it would sound. So how might direction sound in Spanish? Dirección. No, good. The I is always pronounced like E, like in ink. Dirección. And other than direction, dirección also means address in Spanish. Your direction is your address, makes sense. So I want your address. Quiero tu dirección. Tu información. Quiero tu dirección. I require your address. Step it up a notch. I require your address. Requiero. Good. Yeah, that's like a throwback now. Alright. Requiero tu dirección. Can I verify your address, please? So, can I? For questions, we just have tone of voice in Spanish. So, can I is the same as I can. Puedo. Verify. Verificar. Tu dirección. ¿Puedo verificar tu dirección? Tu dirección, por favor. Good. To understand or to comprehend in Spanish is comprender. Comprender. How would you say he doesn't want to understand the situation? He doesn't. So for we have la. He doesn't want to comprehend, to understand the situation. No quiere comprender la situación, which is not the same as not understanding, no? No quiere comprender la situación. How would you say he doesn't understand the situation rather than he doesn't want to? Just he doesn't understand. Good, we have an E for that, don't we? An E sound. So comprender becomes comprende. Good. No comprende la situación. No? So we use an E for he, she, and it, and you formal, no? A lot we can do with that E. No comprende could mean he doesn't understand, she doesn't understand, usted, you don't understand. So from comer, to eat, I eat. How is I eat from comer? What do? We remove the ending er, which means to eat. And what do we put straight I? Como. Good, and we move the accent. Comer becomes como. He eats? Come. With the accent at the beginning, come. Carne, in Spanish, is meat, like carnivore, no? So, he doesn't eat meat? No, come carne. Good. If we want to say they something, they eat, we just add an N to this version, an N. So, come becomes? Comen. They eat meat? Comen carne. Good. They don't eat meat, but I do. You can say, but I, yes. So we'll get there. They don't eat meat. No comen carne, but. Pero I, yes. I think you all know that yes in Spanish is sí. What was the word for I? Pero yo sí. No, because do there It doesn't really mean to do, does it? We're not going to translate it. We're going to think about what we mean there. But I do is, but I yes. Pero yo sí. No comen carne, pero yo sí. They don't eat meat, but I do. So we had an end for the they form to the he, she, it form. So we have quiere, no, for he wants, she wants. They want is quieren. Good. They want to understand your choice. Let's see what happens when we get to choice. They want to understand. Comprender. Y verb. Good. And comprender. Quieren comprender your choice.
Selection.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, but it's not the one, but it could work. It would be understood. It sounds a little bit like a selection of cheeses, right? But it'd be understood. But there is a better word in Spanish. What do we do? What is it? When we have national elections, what are they really?
Election.
Well, what are they supposed to be?
Election.
Choices. Good. So, elección is the word for choice. It's just the word for choice in Spanish. Elección. So in English we use the Latin word for choice because it sounds a bit posher. So we're not going to call them national choices, are we? National elections. But in Spanish it's just the everyday word for choice. So, ¿quieren comprender your choice? ¿Tú? Yes. Tu elección. Tu elección. You're all hesitating there, like I was tricking you. ¿Quieren comprender tu elección? They want to understand your choice. No, so that's choice generally, not talking about elections, just generally in life. How was I must, I owe? Debo, brilliant. He, she, it, you, formal, owe, must, debe, they? Deben, good. They must understand why I can't confirm the address. They must. Deben comprender. Why? ¿Por qué? I can't confirm the address. Bravo, very good. Muy bien. Muy bien. I should say muy bien rather than bravo, because that's very Greek of me. Muy bien. Deben comprender por qué no puedo confirmar la dirección. They must understand why I can't confirm the address. So there really are so many things you can talk about, and even a lot of nuance you can express in Spanish with what we've learned so far. No, anything from fermentation to manipulation, you can talk about it. The most important thing is to not decide too quickly that we can't say something in Spanish, no, when it's not obvious right away, but to hunt for the word to express the idea that we want to express. Sometimes we'll want to say something like invite and have an obvious root there, invite, invitation, invitar, and sometimes, we want to say something like finish and it will be less obvious, but we'll find a word like terminar. Please in Spanish is por favor, which means what literally? What do you think that might mean?
For favour.
For favour, good. Por favor, for favour. So favour, favor, we've actually found another pattern here. Favour, favor. I don't need to explain it. I think we can just apply it. Doctor. Doctor. Tractor. Tractor. Motor. Motor. These are all masculine. They all go with un or el. Un motor, a motor. A colour. Un color. An error. Un error. Double R tends to be rolled as well. Un error. Terror. Terror. Good. To need is necesitar in Spanish. Necesitar. To need, to necessitate, right? I need a favor. So, bulk of our concentration now is making necesitar, I need. Making to need, I need. How do we do that?
Necesito.
Good. Necesito. So a lot of syllables there, right? If you feel like tongue-tied managing a word with a lot of syllables like that, just go slower. Just go slower. Syllable by syllable. And if you insist on going slowly, then really quickly your brain will speed up and you'll be able to do that really quickly. No? But if you're always pushing yourself, you'll always be stuck somewhere. So you're necesitar, necesito. I need. Brilliant. What do we need? A tractor? What was it? I need a doctor. I need a favour. Whatever you like. A tractor, whatever you want. Necesito un doctor, necesito un tractor, necesito un motor, whatever. You might also, instead of doctor, by the way, you might say médico in Spanish. What does médico mean literally? Medic. We found another pattern there as well. Medic, médico. So how might we say basic in Spanish? Básico. Good. With this pattern, we don't have a change in word stress, do we? Medic, médico. Basic, básico. No change in word stress. Good to notice that. Good to keep an eye on the word stress. So, if you remain open-minded when you try to speak Spanish, your brain will throw these possible words at you, even for patterns you may have not noticed consciously, right? So you may want to say like epic in Spanish, and it's throwing at you, épico, because your brain's identified a pattern, even if you don't do that consciously. Now and then you can think about it. So listen to your mind when you're speaking, and it's doing random things like just sticking O's on the end of the word. There might be a reason for it. How would you say my Spanish is basic? Spanish is español, is es. My Spanish is basic. Mi español es básico. We could say a little bit, un poco. My Spanish is a little bit basic. How would you say that? Mi español es un poco básico. My Spanish is a little bit basic, but I can converse. How would you say that? My Spanish is a little bit basic, but I can converse. So, mi español es un poco básico, pero I potent, puedo conversar. Very good. Mi español es un poco básico, pero puedo conversar. That's impressive already, isn't it? So, un poco is a little. You can also say that I want a little. How would you say that? I want a little bit. Quiero un poco. I want to try a little. Do you reckon we know how to say to try?
Intento.
Did you find that? Did you work that out, or did you know it? You knew it. All right. So, tell us it, and let's see if we can find out where it came from. Tell me it again. Probar. How might we find that? Probar, which is to try something. But how might we find it from English? It's a tricky one, this one. Probation. It's a long shot. It was just a fun one to throw in there. When you're out on probation, you're out on trial. Probar, probation. Probación, probar. So you can say, I want to try a little bit. No? How do you say that? I want to try a little bit. Quiero probar un poco, o un poquito, which would be like more, a little bit, un poquito. Quiero probar un poquito. Very good. If we have a j sound in what we will call convertible words, so basic, básico, epic, épico, those are convertible words. If we have a j sound in the English, it will become a h sound in the Spanish. So you're all very confused. You just need an example. Tragic, trágico. So now you can say my Spanish is a little bit tragic, and you can translate some like British self-deprecating humour into your Spanish. My Spanish is a bit tragic. It's not, of course. Let's be fun. Mi español es un poco trágico. Good. I said the word humour there. How might we say humour in Spanish? Humor, silent H, like in ahora. I should have mentioned that. So humor, humor, just like favor, favor. No? Favor, favor, color, color, monte, motor. Humor, humor. Good. You might say something like, the doctor doesn't understand my humour. How do you say that? The doctor doesn't understand my humour. I've had to say stuff like that. You can imagine, right? El doctor no comprende mi humor. Good. How might you say director? Director. These words, nouns for people, by the way, the neuter, like if we don't know the gender of the person, or the masculine, doctor, director. If we know we're referring to a female, we feminize these nouns and we get like doctora, directora. No? So if you say, for example, I need a doctor, you're not specifying gender. Necesito un doctor. That's masculine and neuter. Counts for everybody. No? But if you say, I need the doctor, and you're referring to the female doctor, then you're going to say la doctora. No? Good. The doctor or el doctor, la doctora, either way, no comprende mi humor. Good. When it comes to gender, in nouns, it's not the object that has the gender, right? Because a lot of the time people get confused and it's like, how is a chair feminine, right? It's not actually, because you can have more than one word for the same thing, and one word is masculine, the other word is feminine. It's the noun that has the gender. So you can easily spot patterns for that. All the nouns we've seen ending "-ar", I mentioned the masculine. Un error, un tractor, a tractor, right? If it ends "-ion", they're all feminine. So you have una situación, a situation, no, or la situación. So, in short, don't stress about word gender, no, just look for patterns. How might you say the organization? La organización, good. And to organize? Organizar, good. The exception? La excepción. The expression? La expresión. Oh, la, good. She doesn't understand the expression. No comprende la expresión. And if you want to make that comprende they understand or they don't understand, what do we do to comprende? Comprenden. We had an N. Good. Comprenden. So they don't understand the expression?
No comprenden la expresión.
No comprenden la expresión. They can't pronounce the expression. So they can't.
No pueden.
No pueden. Pronunciation. So, to pronounce? Pronunciar. The expression?
La expresión.
La expresión. Good. You guys are sounding confident. You're making big vowels. I love it. That's what we want in Spanish, huh? Expresión. The reason we've been adding an E for he, she, or it is because the verbs that we've been adding this E to are ER verbs in their complete form. They end ER, right? Like comprender, comer, no? But most verbs in Spanish actually end AR, no? Like the ones we've been building. Terminar, etc. So, there with AR verbs, instead of adding an E for this function, we add an A. No? So for example, we have necesitar, to necessitate, to need, that's an R verb. So for he, she, it needs, instead of an E, we add an A. So how is that? He, she, it needs.
Necesita.
Necesita. Good. They don't, he doesn't need, she doesn't need.
No necesita.
No necesita. They don't need.
No necesita.
No necesitan. We just add an N onto that. We know what to do already. Very good. What do they need?
Que necesita.
¿Qué necesitan? They need guidance. Necesitan, how might we say guidance? Dirección, good. Dirección, that works there. Necesitan dirección. Now in context, perfect word for guidance. Or we might say instruction. Necesitan instrucción. No? It's terrible news. Or whatever, what have you. Good. So we have ar verbs, and then we have er or ir verbs. Verbs ending er or ir are in one group. Verbs ending ar are in another group. No matter the verb ending, we always use o for I. No, I need is was necesito. Good. So we have these two main verb groups, er and ir ending, which are like kind of more historic verbs in Spanish, and then all new verbs become ar verbs. And that includes like to Facebook, which is like Facebookear, you know, or Googlear. You know, any new verb in Spanish for a long time has become an AR verb. We haven't learned an IR verb yet, though, have we? We haven't seen any verb ending IR, so let's learn abrir, which is actually the same, to open. It's the same word as open, just with some kind of phonetic changes. Abrir, to open. So I open. Abro. Bravo. He, she, it opens. Abre. Good, it uses an E. It's an E, the verb, it goes with the er. Ir, er, all the same. Abre. They open. When do they open? Good. Later in Spanish is más tarde, literally more late. Más tarde. Más like massive, tarde, Like in tardy, right? We say tardy in English, or retardant, fire retardant, it's like making the fire late. They open later, they open more late.
Abren más tarde.
Abren más tarde. Good. And by the way, this they form can also mean you guys. You can use it like you plural. No? So you might say, when do you guys open? It's the same as when do they open. Same sentence in Spanish. So, when do they open? Or when do you guys open? The same. Cuando abren? Do you guys open later? Abren más tarde. Very good. So, in English, occasionally, when we have future context, like I open later, we can use the present tense. We don't say I'll open later. We can, of course, but we can just get away with I open later. You can't do that all the time in English, though. It sounds odd. But in Spanish, you really can do that all the time, pretty much. If you have future context, the present tense that we've learned works for the future as well, which means you also know how to talk in the future in Spanish. So, for example, you know, in English, if you were to say, I confirm tomorrow, that sounds a bit weird now, doesn't it? I open tomorrow, on call. I confirm tomorrow, sounds uncomfortable, no? But in Spanish, it's perfect Spanish. So, tomorrow is mañana. I confirm tomorrow. I will confirm tomorrow. Confirmo. I sound is I, like ink. Confirmo mañana. Perfect Spanish. You don't need the future. No, actually, the most natural way to say this in Spanish is just like this. I confirm tomorrow. Confirmo mañana. So now we have the future. You could say, I organise the party tomorrow. I'll organise the party. The party you probably know. Even though you don't realise you know. Yes. Fiesta, like the car. I organise the party ends in A, which makes it feminine. So we have la. I organise the party tomorrow. Orga. How is it spelled? Because I heard organizo. So it's like that over here. We have an I there, so it's just I. Organizo. Organizo la fiesta mañana. Good. Confirm, by the way, literally means something like with signing. Con means with. We have it all over English, of course. Complicate means with folding. So it's complicated, it's all folded up. Confirm means with signing. So if confirmar means to confirm, how might you say to sign if con means with? Firmar. Good. I sign tomorrow. Firmo mañana. They sign tomorrow. So when we want to make they, the first thing we need to do, the first habit we want to establish in Spanish is going, what type of verb it's in? And we need to go back on firmar, ar. Let me know where we are, let me know what we're doing. So if firmar is ar and ar, to say they sign? Firman. Good, we have an A there. Firman mañana. Good. Alright, so you can talk about the future just like that in Spanish. You can also talk about the future using the verb to go, like we do in English. I'm going to do it, I'm going to eat. I go or I'm going is voy in Spanish. V-O-Y, so it's a little bit irregular, doesn't end O, does it? It's a bit irregular. Voy, V-O-Y, the V can be pronounced like a V or a B in Spanish. Voy. We have that in English as well. Voyage. No, convoy, which means what? Convoy. With going. Yeah. So, I go, voy. I'm not going. No voy. I'm going home. For that we will say, I'm going to house. En casa was at home. To home is a casa. A casa. So, I'm going home. Voy a casa. I'm not going home because I have to finish the preparation. So, I'm not going casa. I'm not going home. No voy a casa because I owe to finish. To finish. It's a bit of a random sentence, isn't it? No voy a casa porque debo terminar la preparación. Alright. So voy means I'm going in the literal sense, no, of going somewhere, but it also can be used to speak about the future just like we do in English. I'm going to sign it. I'm not going to sign it. When we talk about the future though with voy, we still use this a, which means to. The to of the verb, you know, comer is already to eat, but it's not enough for this structure. So I'm going to eat is voy a comer. No, so if you have no future context to rely on, you can still talk about the future using I go. Voy a comer. I'm going to eat. So I'm not going to eat. No voy a comer. Dormir. Don't say it if you know already. What might this word mean? Guess if you don't know. We see we have a verb because it ends ir. What might dorm refer to?
Bed.
To bed, which would probably not to bed, but to sleep. Dormir, to sleep, like dormant. No, I'm going to sleep. Voy a dormir. Simple. Voy a dormir. If you want to say I'm going to fall asleep, you could just say to sleep myself. Myself was the same as me. So I'm going to fall asleep. I'm going to sleep myself. Good. Just something you can say if you're exceptionally bored. No? Voy a dormirme. I'm going to fall asleep. The word for it in Spanish is lo. You could say I'm not going to put up with it. How might you say put up with? Bravo! Tolerar, to tolerate. No? So we don't actually need the with or anything. You just say I'm not going to tolerate it. So how are we going to say that? I'm not going to tolerate it. No voy a tolerarlo. Good. Good. Alright, so let's jump to vamos. You might have heard vamos in Spanish. Have you heard that around in Spanish? Like let's go or come on. No, literally we go related to voy. No, vamos. So you could say we're going to fix it. The word for it was lo. We're going to fix it. How might you say fix? Have we? Oh, right, fixation. All right, fair enough. But fixation means something else, doesn't it? Reparation. Reparar. Good. Shakira has an album called Oral Fixation. Fijación oral. Different meaning. I always end up mentioning Shakira somehow in every Spanish workshop. It's really weird. Alright, so we are going to repair it from reparation. Vamos a repararlo. Good. You could also say I want to repair them. Them is the plural of it. Not very obvious in English. No. But you could just make lo plural by sticking an S on it. So we're going to repair them. Vamos a repararlos. Vamos a repararlos. So with vamos also we get the we form. That's been a missing form for us for the verbs. Now, there's a difference. I've said that we split groups into er and il verbs because that's how they behave in the language. There's only one difference between er and il verbs in the whole Spanish language, and that's we in the present. So, long story short, for we in the present we have amos, hemos or imos, depending on how the verb ends. So dormir would become dormimos, we sleep. We're not sleeping, we don't sleep, no dormimos. To eat, comer, we eat. Comemos. We eat later. We will eat later. Comemos más tarde. Good. The he, she, it goes is going. It's just va, vi, va, va. So if you want to say they are going to eat, we say they are going. He, she. If you want to say he is going to eat, we say he is going, which is va. And then we say to eat. So that too is kind of repeated in the translation, right? Va a comer. But when people speak Spanish, you won't hear that because it's just like va. Let's go. Va a comer. Va a comer. I was going to pause and say va a comer. Va a comer. They are going to eat. They. What do we add for they? An N. Right? So that's throughout the language in any sense. N we're going to associate with they. Van. Van a comer. No? The word for where is donde, so you can say where are they going to eat? Donde van a comer. Good. Very good. Right, shake all of that off. Just give you a little reset with another fun rule for words, for converting words over. Words ending AL are the same in English and Spanish. So formal, the accent's going to move to the end. So formal is formal, informal, normal, normal, metal, metal, mental, mental, festival, festival, related to fiesta, by the way. Fatal, fatal, good, it's got an A, so it's not fatal, fatal, it's just an A there, no, it's not AI, fatal. Which is a common expression in, I think maybe more in Spain than in Latin America, but I've not been everywhere. But yeah, you might say, how are you? And Spanish people will not say well, if they're not, they'll say fatal. Fatal. How might you say general? Bravo, the J becomes H. No, like we saw in tragic. Tragic, trágico, general, general. Very good. So I've mentioned different ways of saying you. No, we can say he, she, it for you. We can say they for you guys. But your informal, casual you, you're just adding an S for the he, she, it form, right? So to the he, she, it. So you have quiere, he wants, she wants, it wants. You add an S to that, and then you get the kind of informal, not polite usted, informal you. How would that sound if we add an S to quiere? Quieres. What do you want? ¿Qué quieres? So, Spanish-speaking culture really varies depending on the country. No? But generally speaking, it's quite normal nowadays to use the informal you, quieres, even with people that you don't know. No? But like with anything, depends on the place you go, so you should just listen. Like there's some places in the Spanish-speaking world, people even like call their parents usted. There's other places like in Buenos Aires that if you're going to say usted, you're just probably taking the piss out of somebody. Like it's used more ironically. Like, usted es un gran hijo de puta. If anyone knows what that means. If you don't, I'm not translating. Alright. So, you could say, what do you want to insinuate? That's talking informally to tú, with the S. What do you want? ¿Qué quieres insinuate? Insinuar. ¿Qué quieres insinuar? Or if we're talking formally?
¿Qué quiere insinuar?
Good, we get rid of the S. ¿Qué quiere? Insinuar. No? So we have a y popping up there in English, insinu, but it's not written. What we have there is a u. Insinuar. Insinuar. ¿Qué quieres insinuar? Good. How would you say usual in Spanish? Focus on how it's spelled. Usual. It ends AL, like normal, metal, no? US, the weird Z sound the S is giving us there in English, it's not going to translate over to Spanish, we have an S. So, usual, usual. To get usually, normally, if you want to get this li, mentally, you add mente. Alright, so normal, normal, normally, normalmente. Usual, usual, usually, usualmente. Good. Usually, what do you want to eat? Good, I have both versions, depends on the context, right? Usualmente, ¿qué quiere comer? Usualmente, ¿qué quieres comer? No. Normally, what do you prepare at home? Normally? Normalmente, what do you prepare? ¿Qué preparar? Means what to prepare. So what is you prepare? That's the important bit. You prepare, let's say informally. That's how I would say it in Argentina, preparas. But otherwise, we need the accent just before the end. Preparas. Preparas. Normalmente, ¿qué preparas en casa? No? So I've mentioned that, it's a good thing to mention. You know, there's dialectal changes in Argentina, you would hear, ¿qué preparas? You know, and that's Argentina. If you hear something like that contradicts the rule, you know, it might just be dialectal, no? More Spanish is preparas. You have the penultimate accent there always in the present tense. Normalmente, ¿qué preparas en casa? Which also can mean like, what do you cook at home? No? que preparas en casa. Alright, so we've learned to speak in the present and the future and how to find and convert a wealth of vocabulary that we could spend months realizing all that we can say with this in Spanish. And we've learned some important skills too to do that, how to find the words. But don't relax just yet, it's time to learn the past. And also a way to get hundreds of new adjectives. And then we really will have learned Spanish in 90 minutes. So, how would you say to publish in Spanish? Publicar, publication, publicar. How might you say public in Spanish? Publico. We don't have a changed accent there. Public, público, basic, básico, public, público. How would you say? Adjectives in Spanish tend to come after the words they describe. So, like public event is going to be an event public. Evento, like this. So, how would you say public event in Spanish? Evento público. But if I say publico, what does that mean? So instead of publico, publico,
Published.
I publish from publicar. So the accent's very important in Spanish. Publico, public, publico, I published, and we're not learning this today, but publicó is he or she published in the past. So, but we're not learning that past today. But just to appreciate the importance of the accent. So, publico from publicar, I publish. Now, the word published, adjective describing the word, now something is published, is publicado. So here, to get the adjective published, publicado, from publicar, we replace the ar ending of the verb with ado, and we get the associated adjective. From to publish, publicar, published, publicado. How would you say then the published documentation? The documentation published, right? Good, but I didn't tell you this. It was a trap I set. We will change publicado to match la documentación. So we have la documentación publicada. La documentación publicada. Good. Or the public documentation, how would that be? La documentación pública. Público, we'll change it as well. Adjectives that end in O, only if they end in O, we'll change them to A for feminine. La documentación pública. So we can do this with the verbs that we know, like invitar is to invite, and then invited is invitado. There we have the adjective invited, invitado. Well, that would refer to a male. How might it be for a female? If a female is invited, invitada. Good. To finish is terminar. So finish is terminado. No, or terminada if you refer to something feminine is finished. For example, la relación, the relationship, terminado. No? So you might know in Spanish already ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo means how. Again, a question word beginning with c. And the estás means you are. What's the S there on estás? Is it plural? It's a you informal. Good. It's not a noun, it's not a formal S. It's a verb S, which means you informal. ¿Cómo estás? Informally. If you want to be more formal, when we say how are you, how might we do that? ¿Cómo está? No. How is my good sir? ¿Cómo está usted? Or plural, if you're talking to more than one you can also just use the they.
¿Cómo están?
¿Cómo están? Good. So here we have the verb to be. No, so you can say, for example, he is invited. No? If how is he is ¿cómo está? He is invited is what?
Está invitado.
Está invitado. And he's not invited?
No está invitado.
No está invitado. She is invited?
Está invitado.
But for she, what might we do? Alright, so there's some confusion here. It's good to separate this. So the verb doesn't have gender. Está is está. No gender there. What has gender is the adjective, the describing word. Invitado for she would become? Invitada. No? So there's different things going on depending on the word type. That's very important. That means when we're thinking our way through language, we don't need to call everything we know at once because we'll get very confused. We need to focus on the verb type and then we know the word type, and then we know what we need to think about. If it's a verb, we're thinking about different things than if it's an adjective. No? So, if you want to say, for example, the event is cancelled, we could say that. The event is cancelled. What was event? Was evento, ends in o, which makes it masculine. So it's el evento. The event is cancelled.
Cancelado.
El evento está cancelación, cancelar, and then cancelled from cancelar. Cancelado. We remove I and we put ado. A-D-O. Ado. The D is soft, right? You might even, in the south of Spain, you would just say cancelado. Cancelado. Like, you can even see it written like that, by the way, old, like, poetic Spanish. And, anyway. Alright, so, el evento está cancelado. The public event is cancelled. El evento público está cancelado. Very good. So the ado we use with ar verbs, AR verbs to get our adjectives. For ir verbs, for both ir verbs, we use ido. Ido, for both and ir verbs. So dormir means to sleep. Sleep might be dormido. Is he asleep? We're going to go back to como estás for the to be. So that's our hook. Está
dormido.
Está dormido. So to be tends to be an irregular verb. No, in English you have am, is, are. It's all from to be and it looks nothing like be. This is quite a regular verb, but there is an irregularity, which may be confusing you. We have a estar, and then he, she, it is, it was. Está. It keeps the accent on the end. No, we usually remove the accent. Comer, come. But for estar, we have está. So that's a bit irregular. Now, so we get está, and then for they, están. For we can look at vamos. Estamos. No? Good. You might also say, how are we in Spanish? ¿Cómo estamos? How are we doing? ¿Cómo estamos? To sell is vender, like a vendor, no? Or a vending machine. Vender, how would you say sold? Vendido. It is sold. Está vendido. You look confused. People look confused. Is it está that's confusing people? Is it just that we're a bit fried? All right. Yeah, so shake it off. Don't try to remember anything. Shake it all off. Shake it all off. Remember, the only thing you need to think about is not try to remember anything we've done. It's just whatever you're stimulated to think about with the task at hand, and then you'll realise you don't need to remember any of this. It's the thought, all those neural networks that are so intangible that when we think about the right thing, we'll find what we need to find. Oh, there I go. All right, I'm getting to my perdition example. Perder means to lose. Again, we have this word all over English. Perishable, rude, is rottable, losable food. No. Perdition, which is like hell, no, but refers to the loss of the spirit, which is poetic. But then again, we also have pedo, which means fart. Also a loss of spirit, in the sense that languages often pair, different languages, unrelated to languages all over the world, pair the concepts of air and spirit. So, interestingly, pedo, fart, and perdition are connected in the idea that they both represent a loss of spirit. Isn't that amazing? And I posted that on social media yesterday, and somebody told me that in Hebrew it's exactly the same, and give me a wonderful examples of, like, in Hebrew when someone dies they'll say that the air has gone out of them, and then the root for the word for fart is the same. So amazing ancient knowledge there. Alright, so perder is to lose. How would you say lost? Perdido. I am from estar, this to be, estar, like in como estás. I am is estoy. Again, it's a little bit irregular. Estoy. We've got oy, like in voy. But so I'm lost, and apply your gender, whatever gender. So I am lost. Estoy perdido, estoy perdida. Good. If it's us, estamos, it will be plural. So,
Estamos perdidos.
estamos perdidos. Good. Estamos perdidos. Alright, so that's how you use these words as adjectives. There's a bit to think about there. You've got to think about the gender, you've got to think about the number. No, if you get it wrong, most you'll be understood, but it's something you want to think about and get right. Vendido, vendida, vendidos, o vendidas. No, depending on what we're referring to. But we can also use these forms, adjective forms, as verbs, as past verbs, in the same way you can say it is wanted and I wanted. When we do that, we don't have to worry about gender, number, or anything, right? Vendido is just vendido, end of story. No, to mean sold is in the past tense. No, lost in the past as a past rather than an adjective is perdido. You don't have to worry about changing it for anybody. Which means that now if I teach you the verb for to have, in the sense of I have lost, I have wanted, then you know the past in Spanish as well. Alright, and then we finish. I'll let you go. Alright, so the verb for to have in this sense is a very weird and irregular verb. It's haber. H-A-B-E-R. Silent H. Haber. Don't try to take the ER off and do anything. It's so irregular you will not get any sense out of it. But I will help you make sense of it. Right. So, we're going to think haber has two key vowels. E and A. E and A. E is for I and we, the first person. There's a connection between I and we. We is just the plural of I. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Right. So you have E, H-E. Just H-E means I have. E. That's just I have H-E. Which means you can say I have sold. Vendido. He vendido. I have sold. I have cancelled. We have cancelar. Cancelado. I have cancelled. He cancelado. Now this have past is very, very, very common in Spanish, much more than in English. So this have past this structure that we're learning is the most common past tense in Spanish. It's the one you will most often use. It's even much more useful than it appears than it is in English, right? So for I you have and then I said the is going to apply for I and for we. So for we have hemos. So there's some sense there. So it's very irregular, not madly irregular, hemos, but it makes some sense. We've got the H there from haber, we just don't hear it. H-E, H-E-M-O-S. So if you want to say we have lost, hemos perdido. Hemos perdido. Any verb anybody wants to try? We have worked. To work is trabajar. Trabajar. So we have worked. Hemos trabajado. Hemos trabajado. Very good. So, and hemos, for I and we, those are connected. It's the first person. It's I and the plural of I. Hemos. Then for everybody else, we have a. So, H-A by itself, he, she, a. Right? So, you could say, for example, they have started. To start is commence. Comenzar. See if you want to say, sorry, not they, he or she. He or she has started. How do we do that?
Comenzado.
Ha comenzado. The party has started.
La fiesta ha comenzado.
Bravo. La fiesta ha comenzado. We don't have to worry about the gender of fiesta's got nothing to do with comenzado. Comenzado, when it's the past, it's just comenzado. If you want to say the started party, then we would, right? La fiesta ha comenzado. No, but the party has started. La fiesta ha comenzado. The event has started. El evento ha comenzado. They have started.
Han comenzado.
Han comenzado. Good. We just add an N, no? To the A. Han comenzado. To paint in Spanish is pintar. How would you say painted?
Pintado.
Pintado. They have painted the house. They've painted, they painted. So in English we'd probably say they painted the house, but in Spanish it's actually more common, they have painted the house. So how would you say that? They have? Han pintado la casa. How would you say you have, talking informally? What is our key sound that relates to you informal?
As.
S, as. Good. You have. Have you registered it? The it lo is going to come at the beginning here. So we're going to say, it, have you registered?
Has registrado. Lo.
So it will come at the beginning here. Lo has registrado. Lo has registrado. Good. Have you registered it? Have you registered them?
Has registrado.
Los ha registrado. Something that will help you remember F, I have, H-E, is that there is one other verb that is this weird in Spanish. It's a very common verb. Most of you won't know it already. How do you say I know in Spanish? Or I don't know? Se. So H-E-S-E. They're the only two verbs in the present that are formed in that very weird way. It might help you remember F for I have. You also have se for I know. No? You can say, I don't know if I've registered it. The word for if is the same as the word for yes. It's si. So you can say, I don't know if.
No sé.
Si. I have registered it. It, I have registered. Registered.
Lo he registrado.
No sé si lo he registrado. Alright, let's last one. Alright, to tire, the verb to tire is cansar. How is tired?
Cansado.
Cansado. I am tired. From estar, we got a little bit irregular, we got estoy.
Cansado.
Good. To learn is aprender, to apprehend, aprender. I'm a bit tired because I've learned a lot of Spanish. Much Spanish. Mucho. Alright. I'm a bit tired.
Estoy cansado porque
Estoy un poco cansada. Good. For female. Estoy un poco cansada o estoy un poco cansado because I have apprehended.
ha aprendido.
A is for he, she, it. Bravo. He aprendido much Spanish. Mucho español. Well done, guys. Bravo. That was some mammoth concentration you gave me. Thank you very much and well done. Well done. You've learned a lot. We learned a lot of Spanish. So where to from now? If this is your way of learning, if you feel that this works for you, you can do all of this in your own time with Complete Spanish. It's online, 100% for free. I've got some goodies there which you can carry away for free to help you remember their website and to share the project as well. You can just download the app, search for language transfer, you find it on YouTube, wherever. There's no sign up, no BS, it's all just there, open. Complete Spanish, which is around 15 hours of this, going through the entire structure of the language. Thank you so much for coming and see you around. Cheers. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.